Hello friends and welcome to a shot of code. Today we're going to be looking at creating a morphing web component. This will allow us to morph between two SVG shapes. Now I'll use a couple of packages here to assist. We'll use popmotion and flubber and we'll wrap them up in a LitElement web component. Let's jump in. Okay, I've got Visual Studio Code open here. So the first thing is to bring in these packages. So just start yarn and then we'll add flubber, which does the morphing part of this, and popmotion, which can be used with flubber. It's an animation library. And then we'll bring in our Polymer LitElement. So I just need to add in there, obviously. Right, as those are being pulled down, let's start then and create a main.js. And then I'm going to want to import a couple of things here from flubber. We want to import interpolate, and that's going to be from flubber there. And then from popmotion, we need to import styler and styler and tween, and that's from popmotion. And then our standard LitElement and HTML. Like so. Okay, so let's create a class here then called myMorph, and it will extend LitElement. So in here I'm going to have a render function that's going to display one of the SVGs, the initial SVG. So we'll have a start shape and an end shape, and then just an action there to allow us to morph between the two. So let's have just some basic HTML return there, and we'll have an SVG element that has a path, and we'll give that an ID of target because we'll need to be able to point our animation at this path. The path element for flubber, we need to have a D attribute which defines the path for SVG. That's what it will operate on in terms of doing the morphing between the two shapes. So there's our SVG, and we'll just have a button on here that we can use to kick off the animation. Do morph. And that will be this dot morph, we'll say. Okay, I don't need, let's get rid of that bit so we can see. Just make it a little bit smaller. Okay. Well, let's just get rid of this for the moment. Just keep it a little bit bigger. Okay, I need to define my element, custom elements dot define, and it's my -morph, and the class is myMorph. So that should give us our element. Right, let's have a look at creating this doMorph function. So morph. Now what I'm going to do is allow the start shape and the end shape to be specified just as simple properties on our element. So let's have a static, its properties, and in here we will just define those two. So we've got return, and it's going to be start. Let's do start path. And just say it's a string, and we'll have an end path, and that can be a string as well. Okay, and we'll probably have one more thing in here. We'll probably add a morphed, which is going to be a boolean, just so that when we morph to the end shape, we can then morph back as well. So yeah, let's duplicate this one and say unmorph. Like so. Okay, so let's come into our morph thing and look at how we do this then. Now, the first thing we need to set up is the interpolation that Flubber will provide for us. So we can say let morph equals interpolate, and we can say, right, we want to interpolate from the start path and end up at the end path there. So that should be the Flubber part. Now, in terms of Flubber and popmotion, if you just Google those two, you can get a nice little demo on pretty much what I'm doing here, and then you can go into more detail on doing things there. You know, we're just doing the paths here. You might really want to have the whole SVG element passed in as, say, slots from the component, but just to keep this a bit simple, we're just using the properties in this case. So that would be our morph there. Then we need to specify which element we're going to be applying this to. So let's grab the path target. So this dot shadow root query selector, and we want target. So that will give us this path element here. Okay, so we've got our morph and we've got a target, and now we need to specify which property we're going to apply this morphing to. So let's say let the shape is going to be, this is where we use the styler, and we pass in our target, and we say set, and the property, the attribute is D. Normally on a path here you will have D equals and then a whole load of coordinates there essentially. So that this D is going to be targeting the D attribute of this path, and it's going to get applied as it changes on each iteration of the animation. It's going to get applied to this target, which is that path. Okay, so to kick the animation off, we simply call tween on popmotion, and we can give it a duration for how long the animation will last. So say, okay, let's just say it's a second, and then we pipe that and pass in our morph, and then we say start and pass in the shape. Like I say, you can go into more details of how these things work on the websites for Flubber and popmotion. But this would just give a good idea of the basics and how to add it into LitElement. Okay, so that should allow us to do the morph. Let's just do it so we can unmorph. So if we say if morphed, then we want to do this one here, and otherwise we will unmorph it. So if I move this one up into here and then take a copy, move it into there. Okay, so when we unmorph, so the first time in, morph will be false. So let's do if not morphed. And we should go from start path to end path. And then on the next time we will change this and we will come from end path and go to the start path. So, and then we'll just say here we can say this dot morphed was not this dot morphed, and that should allow us to well, so in that case I don't even need the two buttons, I just need one, and it'll do the morph there. Okay. Okay, so I think that's it for our component there. Now I've tried using this with Polymer Serve. It doesn't seem to like these packages, so I'm just going to do webconfig for this, and we'll webpack it. So webpack.config JS and do module.exports. Feel free to skip this bit if you know about webpack or you're not interested. So we're going to take our main.js and we'll output to a file name of bundle.js, and we want that to go into a dist folder, so we can specify the current folder name and then dist, and we'll set up the same location for our Webpack dev server. Okay, and just need to add in path there. And that should allow us to build. So let's put this back down the bottom, and before we do that last bit, we'll create our web page, so index.html, and what we want is to have in the dist folder, we've got a bundle.js, and here we're going to have our component. So we create our my morph component, and we want to specify on here two properties, a start path and an end path. Now I've got these saved away, so they're just a list of coordinates for a star and a circle. So I'm just going to paste those in. You know, you can use any shape you want if you find a path, or just by googling for various shapes. Okay, and now that should be our page there. So let's try and give that a build. Just gonna make it all a bit smaller so I can see what goes on. With our webpack. Okay, so that looked good. And then if we do webpack dev server, we shall see what problems we have. So we want to go into localhost 8080 and have a quick look here. Okay, so the initial image, I haven't specified the initial image, so let's just grab that for the moment straight off of here. Now what we would like to do is programmatically grab this path and apply it, but let's just paste that in for the moment. So if I make this a bit more visible again. Okay, I didn't want an end path on here. Let's see what we've got. So we've got the path, and let's just close that off. Okay, so at the moment that's hard coded, but this D on the creation of the component, we would want to set that. So we might try that in a minute, but let's just see if we can get it to come up for now. So just building. Okay, and there it is. It's a little bit cropped, so let's give it a width of just 200, height 200 as well. See if that makes it view a bit better. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now when I call do morph, it should try and change that into our end shape, which is a circle, and it did not. Morph is not defined. Yes, so we just needed to say let morph here. And let's see what that builds. Okay, we give it a click now. I lost my target. Lost my target in here. This ID needs to be target. Okay, third attempt. I think we'll be good on this one. Okay, we do the morph, and you can see that it changes into a circle. And if we morph again, it will change back into the star. We can go back and forth between the two. So yeah, in terms of that initial shape, if I just refresh this, it's starting as the star, but that's because we've hard coded it here. What we would like to do is in our constructor, which we always need to call super on first, we would like to set the target, set the D attribute of target to our property. So let's say we can grab target again. So let me just grab that from here. So there's target, and then we can say target.set attribute, and we want to set the D attribute, and we want to set it to this dot start path. Now hopefully that is correct, which would mean I could then take this out. Okay, so if I give that a save, we'd hope our initial star is shown. It is not. Okay. Let's not do it in the constructor. Let's do it in first updated. I think our element should be visible at that point. Okay, so there we go. Yeah, it's just in the constructor. Our DOM hadn't been created. This first updated in LitElement is pretty much, I think, like on connected callback from standard web components. So a good place to do that sort of initialization. So if I close that one off, we can see we can morph back and forth. Okay, so we can see here that the morph is not the greatest resolution. You see when it turns into circle, there's quite a few angles on it there. And now what we can do to clean that up a little bit is on the interpolation, we can say max segment length, and make that smaller, and do the same on this one here. And then we'll just speed it up a little bit as well to 600. Okay, so while that's building, and then we'll have a look. Okay, we do the morph now. Okay, it's a little bit smoother there, a bit more rounded. So you can there's various properties on there that you can play with to improve the animation. So there you go. There is morphing SVGs in a web component. Hope that was interesting. If you'd like to see more of these videos, then feel free to click on that subscribe below, or give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, depending on what you thought about it. Thanks very much for watching anyway, and see you next time. Bye.